All right, everybody. This is Paris Prokopis once again. Thank you for joining us for our What's New with Microsoft Dynamics SL 2015 webinar. But before we begin, I have a couple of quick housekeeping items. You can choose mic and speakers to use your computer speakers and voice over IP. Otherwise, you can choose the telephone option to dial in using the information provided there. If you have any questions throughout, feel free to submit your questions and comments via the questions panel. We will have time for questions and answers after the demo. So please feel free to ask those questions throughout the demo, so we'll have them all ready. And just a real quick agenda on what we're going to be covering today. We're going to talk a little bit about MIG and who we are. Then we're going to talk about, or have an overview of Microsoft Dynamics 2015, or SL 2015. And we're going to get into system-wide demo, web client, business intelligence, financials, distributions, and we'll be showing most of this in a live demo. And it'll be a very high-level demo today. And then finally, with our question and answer period at the end. So once again, please be sure to put your questions in there. Now, MIG specializes in the implementation of financial and business management systems. We work to help our customers streamline their processes and obviously maximize their productivity. Our specialties are Microsoft Dynamics GP, SL, CRM, SharePoint, and business intelligence. We have well over 15 years of experience in the industry, and we focus on mid-market and enterprise level types of customers. We are also a Microsoft Gold certified partner. We are BBB accredited, and we are also a GSA approved vendor. And if you are taking this webinar or any of our webinars for CPE credit, be sure to let us know at the end, and we'll give you an email to send your information so we can add that in there. And now I'm going to introduce Sherry Clark, and she will give you the Microsoft Dynamics SL overview. Sherry, go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. How are you today? I wanted to introduce myself. My name is Sherry Clark, and I'm a Dynamics SL consultant. I've been doing this for 20+ years in SL arena. And we're going to talk about Microsoft Dynamics SL 2015 overview. And basically, we're going to focus on some of the changes that have come up with Dynamics SL 2015. And we'll go through that. Don't hesitate to ask questions in the prior version if you needed to. But today's focus is going to be what is new in Dynamics SL. Now, as you know, Dynamics SL, it is very comprehensive ERP system. And it includes modules anywhere from financial suite all the way to manufacturing as well as service arena. And it's very simple to use, as you all know, and you've been using it. It is very user-friendly and very flexible. One of the things about Dynamics SL is that it is easily customizable to your environment, and it has a good and outstanding tool for Visual Basic, which you can actually change screen and the behavior very easily to your customized requirement. Extremely powerful. It includes a lot of the controls and the business intelligence and as well as functionality that some of the top-of-the-line ERPs have. Okay. Dynamics SL 2015 benefits are it has identity management. In the sense, it allows you to manage the identity of the people within the SL. It has outstanding control as far as the accounting control is. It allows you to manage users control as well as process control in batch processing and closing of the period and what have you. Service-based architecture, which is actually is SOA, which is a new environment where you can easily integrate the system to other your customers and your vendors through EDIs and what have you. Productivity, it is integrated to Office Suite seamlessly, and it gives you ability to export onto Excel fairly easily, and as well as Word. Powerful business intelligence, Dynamic Excel has multiple ways of doing reporting. Obviously, as we know, Crystal Report, which was its own base reporting tool within the Dynamic Excel. Now we've had SSRS, SQL Server reporting services that was added to Dynamic Excel, which is getting every time a version of release is more enhanced, as well as the Business Analyzer that has been offered recently, which was a dashboard in 2011, and more recently there is an integration of showing all of your Dynamic Excel Crystal report in web apps. So you can actually view those in a web apps environment. So if anybody has access to web apps, they can access the reports that you have allowed them to see in Dynamic Excel. Workflow enhancement, there has been some integration, and they continue enhancing that to web apps and as well as SharePoint, which allows you to do workflow control in Dynamic Excel. In 2015, there is a role-based log-on. It used to be that in Excel, when you went in and you wanted to select your company, you could see all companies, even though if you didn't have access on that. They have actually made that by user. So if the user does not have access to the company, they will not see it in their drop-down box list as far as the company availability. Navigation for integration to Management Reporter and Management Reporter integration option that has been enhanced. Business Analyzer has multiple different way of being accessed through Windows, ISO, and Android. So you can actually use it on the little tablets, Android tablets. We have a refreshable Excel report creation from Quick Query. So essentially, it allows you to take your Quick Query and put it onto Excel and create a very easy connection and be able to have that Excel refresh without having to go into Excel and re-export the report. Okay, intercompany enhancement, there has been an enhancement in intercompany function in there. Prepayment enhancement in Dynamic Excel, they've actually enhanced the prepayment. I'm going to go through that. 1099 withholding enhancement and 1099 tax ID request tracking. AR invoice preview, I will discuss that in a little bit more detail as we go forward, but there is an enhancement in that. In project area, we also have an enhancement where in Dynamic Excel we did not have a project as a multi-company and multi-currency, and that has been created in this version of 2015. Okay. Again, sign-on enhancement is the very first one that basically the user is limited to see the company that they have access to. So historically, you could see number of companies shown here, but in this version there's only one because the user has access to only one company. Okay. ROI and ROI SSRS email capability. In Dynamic Excel, although Crystal had some capability for that, but in Excel, in ROI, that was not available. Now you can actually go ahead and email from within the report, whether that is a trial balance, whether that is a AR aging, or is an invoice from a customer or a purchase order. right within the print preview of the report, you can go ahead and click and email the document as an attachment to a particular user. And by doing so, you can also go ahead and export it either in PDF or Excel or Word or whatever format that you choose from that drop-down box. I will show you that in the system when we get there. It used to be in Dynamic SL that you could only have up to about, I believe, was 4 different report formats. So each, for example, in trial balance, we could only create 4 different versions of trial balance that you could store in Dynamic SL. Then we had to create a whole new report and whole new report interface for you. Now it is not that way. You can actually have unlimited number of report formats. So if you need to have 7 different versions of trial balance, you can have that in the new Dynamic SL, and that helps you and not having a partner or someone to help you with that. So, company default report format, and this is actually, I find that it's a really nice feature, and in a way, in this demonstration, we're actually using this for just a trial balance or the batch report. However, this is actually really useful if you have companies that have multiple different invoice formats. So, for example, you have multiple companies that have, one company has a different logo and the other company has a different logo, so you don't have to have your users, right, go into accounts receivable and changing the drop-down box to their report format and then generate the invoices. In this one, you can actually set up by company what is the preferred default report format. So when they click print on the invoice, it prints the invoice with their appropriate logo and what have you. It used to be that the first one was the default. Now you can set that up by company. And I will demonstrate that to you a little bit later in our demonstration. Okay. Metadata. I think we all, if we have used Excel before and we try to create a query for filtering, we always had this challenge of these fields and what they meant, and I always had a question that people say AR.ref number, what does that mean? Or AR. Adjusted ref NBR, I mean, what does that mean? So actually what they have done in this version, they have enhanced that. So they actually have a more user-friendly description of the field. And so you can actually make a better decision what field applies for your filter and what can you filter on. Okay? Again, that's the web-based ROI. And that was what I was talking about before, that right now you can actually, the report, whether it's your trial balance in ASL, invoice, or AGR, period AGR, you can actually access those reports through the web apps. So there, and it does not require business portal at all. So there is a web app interface that allows you to access that and all the reports now without the business portal. Okay, so sorry, project company enhancement. Project company enhancement is that although you could associate a project to a company, when you went to Allocator, you had to be in that company to do project charge entry or do allocation and what have you. Now the enhancement is you can be in one company, still do processing for other companies for the project series. So it allows a full functionality of intercompany transaction for the project area, which we didn't have before. So as you can see, instead of where it was defaulted to just the company that you were in, now you can use a specific company or another company and then or all companies and run the process in that. Essentially in that security also once you set up a user for a specific company, they can only see the project information for that company based on the role. Okay. Multi-company enhancement, again, that is, like I was saying before, is in the project charge entry. It is, again, based on the user access to the company, but you can go in the project charge entry and now see multiple company and see the transactions for the multiple company. Again, it will be multi-company. You can do multi-company transaction in the project charge entry as well. Okay. Multi-currency enhancement in the project module. Even though the currency was an option that was available, but it always defaulted to your base currency, and you could not change the currency in the project because the project was the currency of your general ledger, which was your base. Now you can actually do a multi-currency on the project. You can now change the currency on the project to what the project currency is. So in essence, this would be an example that you can use in this, that where your base company is in US dollar, the project is in Canadian dollar, yet you process invoices for that project in yen and pay subcontractors from the contract module, contract payments, in pesos. So all of this then comes back and gets reported as a US dollar, which is your base dollar, but yet at the project level, it's all shown in a Canadian dollar. So project charges, they'll all be converted and shown in a Canadian dollar. Okay. Essentially, as we go into 2015, from the web-based capability is being enhanced, and there are additional web dashboards are being added, and that is really the focus. Okay, to do resource planning on the project on the web, again, we resource an employee's project and assign them, and view project and resources and assignment on employees as well on the web. Okay, accounts payable. In accounts payable, the improved vendor auditing. As you know, that when it used to be, if somebody changed the vendor name in the vendor maintenance screen, then that vendor name forever was gone, the previous one, and tracking that was not part of Dynamic SL. And so I know that I had a lot of customers that would go, I want you to write a script, or we could just actually document what changes was occurring on the vendor. Well, now in this version of 2015, what they have done, in 2 tables, they've added the name of the vendor, so it stores it in those tables. And so if you ever go back and look at the check, you will see the original vendor that was issued to, not the changes that occurred on a vendor maintenance screen. So, and that is getting tracked and stored in the table. Okay. Backup withholding request for 1099, that was not an option in Dynamic SL before, and in SL 2015, you can actually set up in your 1099 setup as a to calculate backup withholding, and it can all be set up at the vendor level. So essentially, this option is now available to you to calculate withholding. And what this does is that when you issue a voucher and there's a backup withholding, it automatically withholds that and records it as a tax liability for you. Okay. And here is the enlargement of that screen, which actually says the calculate withholding and the percentage and the where that account backup withholding is recorded in your general ledger. Okay. Again, you essentially, if you set up a vendor to change, when you change this option in the 1099 setup, it automatically asks you if you want to go ahead and update the vendors in your system, and it automatically goes and updates all the vendors that you have in your system, so you don't have to go manually change each vendor and set them up to calculate backup withholding. It will then automatically does that. If you don't want to, you say no, and you can go flag each vendor that is appropriate. Okay. Again, in vendor maintenance, now we have the ability to track, in essence, their TIN request. So and I know this was a really an issue for some of my vendor customers, that they wanted to be able to track to see if they had sent a TIN request to the vendor, and if this request was sent once or twice, and they wanted to be able to track that and make sure that they were following through with sending requests to the vendors. And this is now available in Dynamics Excel 2015. Okay. Again, the backup withholding, again, right here is yes or no on a vendor, and you can toggle that by vendor. If you want to do a mass update, you could do it when you set up your 1099 option to calculate withholding, and it automatically sets everyone to yes, and you can change them to no. Okay. And as far as the backup withholding, in the vendor history, and actually there's a column that was added that it will show you how much backup withholding have you been holding by period and in total for the vendor in the vendor history screen. Okay. Print preview invoices. As you all know, we could do print preview of the invoices, and you could do draft invoices in project area. You could basically do print preview the invoices in order management, and then do delete all, where it would not update into the next stage. But yet in the accounts receivable, in order to actually print invoices, they had to be released and in accounts receivable for you to see it. Well, now in Dynamics Excel 2015, you can actually print preview, right, the invoices by having the batch status on hold, and after you save the invoice. Once it is saved, you can actually preview it and see what it looks like, and the taxes and shipping and what have you that you have added, and how that report looks like before you print it. Okay. This is what pops up when you click that button, and it shows you the invoice and what the invoice looks like and when the charges are in there. There is a print preview quick query that is set up in Dynamics Excel, so you can actually go in and launch that quick query, and then all of your invoices that are on hold in Dynamics Excel, which is good because you can actually check to see what invoices are on hold and they have not been printed yet, and see in the screen, and also preview them and see if you want to go ahead and release those and process them for month-end close, which is really a good tool on the month-end close procedure to make sure all the invoices that were entered have been released, or do they need to be deleted prior to moving forward. This is also a good tool, the print preview for your project manager or your regional managers, if they want to see it before you actually go ahead and print them and send them out to the customer. The next functionality that is pretty unique, it used to be you could only apply a prepayment to one invoice, one voucher. Well, now you have the ability to go and apply multiple vouchers to one prepayment. So at the time of the issuance of the voucher adjustment entry, you actually could associate to a voucher, but now with a multiple prepayments, you can actually click on that and apply multiple prepayments to a single voucher. Okay. Again, this is a prepayment application, and you can go in here and do this through the prepayment application screen. Possible value search capability. This is actually an I tell you, this is going to be a big, huge advancement that I personally think it's really nice. What they have done is that it used to be that your when you push the F3 and a lookup came up, you were very restricted to that search. It was only certain columns, and you could not filter. In essence, you could only sort, but you could not filter. Now it actually it's a in essence a quick query function, and you can actually go in there and be able to say, okay, I want to filter by batch number, and you can actually do that, or filter by company, filter by period both, and what have you. So you can actually filter by control total. You can search by control total to find a batch in the system. Okay? So I think this is really, really nice, in my opinion. The second thing I think I talked about, the next thing that I want to talk about was that in a quick query you could actually export the report to Excel. We know that you could do that, no big deal. But now you can actually copy, in essence, this quick query onto Excel and set a connection to refresh that Excel. So anytime that Excel is opened, it does that. Not only that, but you can also create pivot tables from within the quick query. So you can actually click pivot table, and it will allow you to create a pivot table. And as you can see, you can go ahead and take that to that, and then create, and it goes through the options and navigates you through creation of a pivot table from that quick query. Okay, and then once you do that, it automatically creates a pivot table in Excel that you can actually take a look at. And here's the parameters for that. Okay, and then once you actually refresh, and as I noted before, once you set your connection, you can refresh, and the data will refresh into Excel. So it's actually a nice feature to have. Accessing quick query via web enhancement. Again, like I noted before, not only that ROI is available in your Crystal report, ROI, any reports that in Excel, but also in the web apps in 2015, there is a large commitment to make all of the dynamic Excel capability available in web app, and one of those that they have done so far is a quick query. You can see quick queries in the map. Okay, this is how it looks like. But web apps that is currently right now available for Dynamic Excel 2015 is Project Timesheet Entry, Project Communicator, Project Maintenance and Inquiry, Billing Information, Project Maximum Amends, which would be under Project Maintenance Inquiry, and percent complete address and contract value and revenue recognition. Budget maintenance and inquiry is available, budget revision and maintenance, invoice approval, delegation approval, as well as item request entry and approval, and resource management dashboard. Okay. Initial goal was to top use business portal for the future to replicate in dynamic Excel web apps. So they basically took the most the functionality that were most used by the clients in business portal and created in dynamic Excel web apps. Okay, the schedule for web apps for Microsoft Dynamic Excel for 2015 is as follows. The initial goal, which was accomplished by creating the top use functions in the business portal and replicate it in the web apps. And now their focus on 2014 will be that business portal is not supported in 2015, and in the major releases and after the initial hotfix and service pack, the focus is going to be web app. So they're going to basically take all functionality and as much as they can into web app function. Okay, so now we're going to proceed to our live demo, which I'm actually going to show you Dynamic SL 2015 in live. So let me find my, no. Okay. Dynamic SL 2015 it's a little bit different than 2011 and a lot different than 07. So for some of you that are on 2011, some of you that are on 2007, there will be a variance between the two. But I want to kind of start going by and talking about some of the things that we talked about, specifically like, for example, on a sign-on portion. In a sign-on, when you look at more companies, as you can see right here, I can see all companies. Obviously, I'm logged in as administrator. However, if a user has only access to company 60, they will not be able to see these other companies in Dynamic SL. Okay? Hopefully you all can see my screen and everything is visible. As far as the navigation is concerned, in Dynamic SL, the navigation are very similar to Dynamics 2011. That portion has not changed. The role-based menu has not changed. So in your favorites and what have you in a home page has not changed in that area. So let's talk about some of the other areas where we see change, and that was in ROI and email functionality. So let's go ahead and take a look at the ROI, and I'm going to start that with the financial arena. Okay. So when we go to, for example, in accounts receivable, and we go to aged AR, okay, obviously you can filter the aged AR by salespeople or what have you, but let's go ahead and do a print preview right here. Okay. In Dynamic SL 2011, you can actually go ahead and click the email button, and then this particular report right here, as we see it with all its content, can be then emailed to a user. And these are the formats that are available to you: Crystal Report, PDF, Microsoft Excel, different versions of, and data only gives you, it will not export any formatting, just gives you column of the data, and a Word and rich text. So let's go ahead and choose Excel, and we go ahead and click OK. It automatically connects to the Outlook and brings your Outlook up to email that particular document. Okay. So so the next function that we have in SL, so let me go here. I have to scroll up for a second and close the screen. Okay. The next function that I actually like to discuss with you was, we talked about the metadata in Dynamic SL and how it has changed. So let's go ahead and do that and show you that. As you remember, before we did not have the description or the source and what have you. So all we had is these field names that we really didn't know what they were. So now it's made more user-friendly, so you can actually VR 08610.dp.customer ID, now we know that's customer ID. Or this one, like for example, this is really encrypted, CUR. Okay, now it says document balancing based currency. So in essence, it's telling you that this particular, if you want to see this, the document might have been generated in euro, but if you want to see it in dollar, that's what it is. Or you want to filter by the dollar amount rather than, you might have seen amounts in general ledger for in a base currency, and you want to filter by that. So this is the descriptive view of that. Okay, you can see the screens have changed a little bit, so your lookups are a little bit more cleaner, a little wider, and it's not as it used to be. So they're making it a little more cleaner and more dynamic. So, and so then the next thing that I want to talk about is report control and the reports. So in the report control and the reports, let's go to that screen. As we talked about, in the report control, in administration, you were able only to create report just 3-4 different formats. So on for example, on the trial balance that I had talked about before, it used to be you could only do just 4 different formats. And as you can see, now we have the ability to go all the way down, so it's unlimited. You can scroll down. It used to be you stopped at 5 and that was it, because we only have 4 different report formats in the table capability. So now you can actually go ahead and create multiple different formats, and these formats can be for invoicing. It can be for based on. Let me go ahead and invoice a memo and see if I can. Okay. Okay, so an invoice 460 with invoice registered. So let's go to invoice. Okay. Invoice and memo in accounts receivable. Okay. So in this one, like I had said before, so if I want to create a new one in here for company 60, right, and call it 08763 and set this up, what happens is that for that particular company 60, I can set that report format as a default for them, so that anytime I print invoice, it automatically prints that one, and I can actually show you that. So let's go ahead and make this company 60, and we're going to use that in the future here. Okay. All right. So now we have that in here. Okay. So we talked about that. The next item I have is the project multi-currency that I wanted to show you. So let's go to the project area. In a project maintenance, as we had talked about, you were unable to change the currency on the project. Now you have actually the ability to set there is a base currency for the project, but it also is a project currency that you can associate to that. So there is a base currency. You can see project currency, and you can see the base currency. So there are multiple currencies that you can actually pick, and that's what I was talking about earlier. The company, the general ledger, can be in U.S. dollar. The project can be in yen, and then we can go ahead and invoice in pesos. So every one of them can have multiple different currencies that you can actually function within the project, which you did not have before. Okay. Okay. Now I want to talk about the invoice preview in Dynamic Excel. So let's go ahead and talk about the invoice preview. So my invoices should come up, and that report that I was going to go ahead, it came up, so I can email that, and that is done. They are invoiced. Okay. So in the accounts receivable, you can actually go ahead and in the invoice and memo area, you can actually set up an invoice to either be a quick send or or have it previewed as well. So let's look at that invoice preview. Okay. So let me bring that up. I have an invoice that is on hold, and obviously it gives me that my customer is I should not sell to the customer because they're past due. That was the warning that I got, but I'm going to go ahead anyway and sell to this customer. So once I create an invoice in Dynamic SL and I set that invoice to be on hold, I can actually preview that invoice prior to sending it. Okay. So as you can see, I can click the preview. It will show me the invoice, what it looks like, what logo is going to print on this, and then what are the amounts, which includes my sales taxes and what have you in Dynamic SL. Okay. So before processing, before releasing the batch, I can see what I've done and what it looks like, or I can save it on this, and the people can go into Invoice Preview Quick Query and see this information in the Quick Query. So, okay, and I will take you to the Quick Query right now. So if I go to Invoice Preview and in Accounts Receivable, and you can see the Invoice Preview, which is a new report that has come up. When I generate that preview, it will show me all of my invoices that are on hold and in essence awaiting to be printed. Okay, here it is. Okay, so this is our invoice preview. It only shows the invoices that are on hold, that have not been released in accounts receivable. These are only accounts receivable invoices that have been created, but they're on hold and they need to be processed. So this is a useful tool to set up, which is again is available through web apps. And when you go into the web apps, this can be available to the salespeople, it can be available to account manager or regional managers, that it can go in the web apps and look at the invoices and let you know if these are okay and is the correct format, and allows this capability for them to preview it. Okay. Now I'd like to actually show you the second functionality, is that using the QuickSend, which is available in Dynamic SL 2015, which was also available in Dynamic SL 2011, but this particular functionality was not available in 2011. In 2011, you had a quick send option, but when you went to print the invoices, it would automatically email them to the appropriate party. But in Dynamic SL 2015, now you actually have an ability to click this button and send this invoice through the quick send one time to the appropriate party for the email, as an email attachment. You also have the ability to publish this invoice to the SharePoint as well. You have the ability to see quick send inquiry in essence to see whether this document was sent through the quick send and when. Okay? And then again, a preview as we had before. Okay? All right, let's look at it, make sure I didn't miss anything. I have a little tickler that I'm keeping here to make sure I'm giving you all of that. We talked about the vendor name and ID in here, which I like to go to that and show you that. To show you the vendor ID, it really is a part of the function. It is not something that is available in a user interface, but I thought I'd show you this in how it appears in the table, and that can be also shown to you as we in a check. So if you were print previewing a check from past, it will show that information. So in essence, what happens is that when I create a check, which is this is a brand new check that I did yesterday, what it did was that not only it stores the vendor ID, but it stores the vendor name at the time I processed the check in actually the web table. Okay. Okay, so it says that I'm having some network issue. If you have any trouble seeing or hearing me, let me know. Anyway, so it stores that. So you have the ability to see at the time the check was issued what the vendor name was, and or when the voucher was created. Again, this is the audit feature that was set up in the 2015 SL to keep track of vendor name changes as a person changes that name. So the next voucher is created is going to be the new name of the vendor. Okay. Now I'm going to go into the 1099 function in here and the backup withholding. So we're going to go to Dynamic SL 2015 Financial, and I'm going to go into Accounts Payable. Okay. In Accounts Payable setup, obviously, and in 1099 control. So let's go ahead and look at the 1099 setup. Okay. In a 1099 setup, in a Dynamic SL 2015 AP setup, now you have a couple of new options that are in here. One of them is either disable or enable backup withholding. Okay, you can disable it, which you will not do backup withholding, or you can enable, take that off, and have the backup withholding occur. Okay, so in here it's an option to do that. I have already selected to do backup withholding. You can choose the percentage of backup withholding that is required for you. You can enable or disable the warning, and you can choose the account where when the backup withholding are withheld and where you're going to post them to. The rest of that is a previous function of SL and the current open year and then next year as well. Okay, so I'm actually not going to disable the warning. I'm going to have it do that. Okay. Now, when you go into the vendor maintenance, then let me see. Okay. So in this vendor, under 1099, as you can see in here, is that I have actually set up the vendor to basically have a TIN tracking, and it says that I've sent one notice. And in here, I've actually populated my tax ID. So in essence, I have received my tax ID request. Already the W-9 has been received. So once it's received, I actually go ahead and populate it. But if I had not received it, I could, when I send another notice, I can come in here and say I've sent the second notice to the vendor. I have set this vendor to calculate backup withholding, as you can see, based on my value of yes. When I process check for this vendor, I have issued a voucher of $2,000, and then I withheld 10% of that, which you can see right here as $200. So you can see. So it actually shows you what all calculation, what has been withheld, and how much you paid the vendor and what box number in the 1099. Okay. So now I'm going to jump into I've talked about, I think I've covered the 1099 backup withholding history, yeah? Okay, so let's go talk about the default report format that I had talked about. That is actually a pretty nice feature. So we're going to go in here, I'm going to show you that invoice format. So we're going to go ahead and say for company 60, right? And then I'm going to actually go ahead, we set up and say, okay, for trial balance, I'm going to have this particular report format, debit and credit, but now I want to go to the invoice. And it's 08760 876 I think is the report that I'm looking for. Okay, right here. So for this company, I have prepared a specific report, if you guys remember, and I'm going to go into that field. Let's see here. As you can see, I actually created a specific report for Company 60 that has their own remit to and their own logo, their own address, their own everything. So what I'm doing is that, in essence, I'm going inside. Every time someone pushes print in the invoice area, the default report, the invoice format for them is Company 60. So this will then give them the ability, right, not to make a mistake and print it on a form that was prepared for another company with a different, let's say, ACH information. You might have that printed on your report, or again, company address and what have you that might be different. This is a really good feature that you can actually use and do that. Okay. So at this point, I'm pretty much done with the demo, and I'm going to open it up to Paris and see if you guys have any questions that you want to see in reference to Dynamic SL 2015 or Dynamic SL 2011, and anything that I've not covered that you might be interested in. Okay, Paris? Hello?
There I am. Sorry about that. Yep, I'm looking to see if we have any questions here. We have a couple, and if you remember, if you want to add any questions in there, you can go ahead and insert into the question panel, and we'll give you a moment just for that to see if any other questions pop up here. Okay. And we have a couple questions here. Are you able to hard close Dynamics SL through previous period by modules?
Yeah. Okay. Yes. In Dynamic SL, you are now from the version 2011. There is the ability to go into GL setup and set up where you can actually hard close. In previous versions, you could actually post to prior period and post to the future period. No, you could not post to the future period. You could release to future period, but you could release and post to prior periods without any control. Well, in Dynamic SL 2011 forward, you can actually not only prevent people from posting to releasing and posting to the prior period, you can also do that to the future. In addition to that, which is a pretty good control, so you can do that not only in GL, but you can do it by module. So you can actually restrict that in accounts receivable, accounts payable, and inventory, but yet keep it open for general ledger for your accountants if they want to go ahead and do adjustment entries even after the other modules are closed.
Okay. And one more question here. Can you email invoices and POs to vendors and customers?
The new, from Dynamic SL well, we had some functionality in Dynamic SL 7, but not as enhanced. But in Dynamic SL 2011 and 2015, which really has become really automated, is that the quick send function, which is a part of shared information, that you can actually set up where you can email project invoices, you can email AR invoices, order management invoices, you can send out purchase order. So there's a lot of those, all of those can be emailed by just setting up the quick send and including email addresses and setting up the customers and vendors. In addition to that, if you have eFax, you can send it through eFax, and you also have the ability to fax as well as email in Dynamic SL 2011 and 15.
Okay, well that's all the questions we have for the moment, so we're going to go ahead and move on here. Thank you very much, Sherry.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, just wanted to talk a little bit about our MIG support plans. We do have several support plans to meet your needs. The nice part about our support plans, it's one bill every year as opposed to having to pay individual invoices every time you have a support case and what have you. And it not only works with the Dynamics products, but also any third-party add-ons as well, any ISVs. So those are good to look at. And some of the plans even include training hours and what have you. So if you want information on that, be sure to email us at info@mig.com. And at the end of this webinar, a survey will appear, and the survey is designed to help us evaluate and improve our webinars. So please take a couple of minutes and do that. It'd be very helpful. We always appreciate your feedback. And once again, thank you for joining us. Thank you, Sherry, for your presentation. And if you have any questions, be sure to email us at info@mig.com. And if you would like to find out a little bit more about us, you can go to www.mig.com. Thank you very much, and everybody have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you.